Hi everybody, my name is Danielle Nicole and welcome to Monetary Makeup. I never thought there would be a day where I could love another Hindash palette as much as Beautopsy. But the day has finally come, and what do I have here? The new Hindash Monochromance Palette. And of course, I had to pick up the new Boy Tears highlighter to go along with it. Now, in case you don't know who Hindash is, he is one of the most talented makeup artists I've ever watched from Dubai. Now, I will be sure to link Hindash's video where he does the reveal himself, but today we're going to test this out. So this is a 6-pan gradient palette with a full 24 shades within these 6 different pans. This retails for $70, and now these are pressed pigments, not traditional shadows. Now, if any of you take a look at this palette and find yourself feeling a little bit intimidated, I felt the exact same way when I first discovered Beautopsy. But what I will say as a busy mom, a busy woman in general, this palette is not only easy to use, but it is absolutely stunning. So what makes this palette so special, other than the fact that it is a gradient and they are pigmentations, not just traditional eyeshadows, is that these pigments are actually made to be mixed. Now, in addition to being able to lighten or deepen the shades and create your own custom shades yourself, the other great thing about this palette is these pigments are actually meant to be used on the entire face. Now, because these are pressed pigments, do always be sure to patch test just to make sure you don't have a reaction. And today I'm going to show you how to use monochromance not only on the eyes, but the face as well. And because I am so familiar with Beautopsy, I am going to be talking about the differences and similarities. Now, as far as the packaging of both of these palettes goes, this is made up of sturdy, hard cardboard. Now, my understanding is that the reason Hindash chose this type of packaging is because the last thing he wanted was for this palette to drop and immediately shatter. Now, I myself am a bit of a klutz, so I definitely appreciate that. Now, you might be thinking, wow, Danielle's brows look pretty good today. Is that a brow pen? Well, thank you so much for the compliment and for asking. No, actually, what I did was use Beautopsy as I do pretty much every single day, and I dip into the shade Feel Real, which is this gray that bleeds into a natural looking brown. And what I do is I spray the tip of my brow brush, and that allows me to get those faux skinny hair-like effects. So don't worry, I will show you up close in just a moment here. So if you're excited to get started and enjoy the video while you're watching, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and let's get started right now. So first, I just wanted to hold up these color stories side by side. That way you can see the difference between the original Beautopsy and the new Monochromance. So as you can see, a Beautopsy is a much more neutral, sort of natural palette with a few fun pops of color. The one thing I would say that makes Beautopsy stand out to me as far as the color story goes is not only can you use these pigments on the eyes, but they're also meant for the face. Now, Monochromance is actually designed the exact same way. However, why I bring this up is because if you notice with Beautopsy, there is a white and a black. So you definitely have control over lightening and deepening these pigments. And my favorite pan from Beautopsy is actually Feel Real, which is this gray that bleeds into a warm chocolatey brown. Now, the reason I love that pan in particular is because this works beautifully for a contour as well as eyebrows. Now, we are definitely going to be using Monochromance on the entire face, not just the eyes, but I did want to point that out that I do feel like you have a few more options with the rest of the skin with Beautopsy over Monochromance. Now, if you're curious as far as swatches go, I will definitely link Hindash's website and his video down below. Now, I am not going to be doing swatches in today's video. Boo, I know, I'm so sorry. But the reason I'm not going to be doing swatches is because Hindash does not recommend that. He said because of how the formulation is with these pressed pigments, if you go in with a swatch and use your finger, it can actually destroy the pigments themselves. But don't worry, we'll be doing a full demo as I mentioned. All right, I can't wait any longer. I am so excited. So first, let's get started with the eye look. All right, so I've got you guys zoomed in pretty close here, so hopefully that is helpful. So as I mentioned, I did use Beautopsy on my brows that I do pretty much every day. Now, if you do not have a brow pen, but you really want those hair-like strokes, as I mentioned, what you can do is take your eyebrow brush and dip into the gray shade or perhaps the brown shade or even the red, depending on your skin tone and eyebrow hair color. And then after I've dipped into the pigment, I take my setting spray and give it a little spritz. So I just wanted to lean in so you can see how versatile this palette is, and it works beautifully on the brows. All right, and lastly, the only thing I have on as far as makeup goes, I have of course my brows done, eyeshadow primer. In case you're wondering what I use today, I use the NYX Waterproof Proof It. And I also have on complexion products that only consists of foundation and concealer. I'm actually doing a couple of other videos today, so I've not set the skin with powder yet. Now you might be worried that I do not have powder underneath the eyes or anywhere on the skin, but what I find with these pigments with both Beautopsy and Monochromance is because of the formulation, you get hardly any fallout, if any. I am going to be reading the names of these pigments from top to bottom, that way you can follow along if you'd like. Alter Ego, Match Made, Heavy Petal, Heartthrob, Antidote, and Forever Inked. All right, first I'm going to dip into Alter Ego closer to the altar side. That way I can just set some of this eye primer. It does have a pretty tacky base. Now I don't find that these pigments really conflict with any of the primers I wear, but just to set it a little bit. And you'll notice that I do not have to tap off my brush when I use these palettes. As I mentioned, there's hardly any fallout. So what I'm thinking for the actual eye look today, now there are so many different pops of color where I feel like you could really create a very dramatic look, but this channel is more geared for busy moms or busy women in general. So I'm thinking I want to show you how you can get a natural look with this palette and simply add a few pops of color to give it that extra spark. Wayne Goss number 5. All right, next I am going to dip back into Alter Ego, this time closer to Ego. Now you can really take your brush and really swirl into these pigments, and what I find, and you will most likely notice as I do this eye look, is these pigments are very silky, but also they are very easily buildable. So what I mean by that is if you are expecting to have wham bam, thank you ma'am, immediate pigmentation on the first dip, this is not how these palettes are in my experience. Of course, the deeper you go, there's going to be a little bit more pigment naturally. Now, I quite like that because I do have palettes such as Pat McGrath, Kaleidos, where you do get that immediate eyeshadow payoff. So I really enjoy having a palette that I really have a lot of control over, and I don't have to worry about dipping in and going too hard at first. And as I mentioned, since I do not want to ruin this beautiful palette, I won't be doing swatches. But the one thing I'll say is how these pigments look in the pan is exactly how they perform on the eyes. You know how with some shadows, when you see the swatches online, they don't look anything like the actual shades on the eyes? This isn't like that. They look exactly in the pan as they do on the eyes. Now, even though I have a love for Beautopsy, and I use that palette just about every day if I'm not reviewing something new, I am going to give you my honest thoughts about this palette, so I just wanted to mention that. And this was not gifted to me. I did purchase this with my own money. All right, I'm really enjoying Alter Ego so far. You know what's interesting is a lot of these shades, in fact all of them, because they have that gradient, sometimes you can pick up different colors even dipping into the exact same spot. And what I love about this shade is you almost think it's going to be a straight, cool, kind of taupey, grayish brown. And it is, but it almost has a touch of warm mustard to it, I guess is the way I would explain it. So anyways, loving this shade so far. All right, next I want to dip into Match Made, closer to the Made side, just to deepen up the crease. Now I have to say, I am a pretty big fan of both of these color stories. I will say that Beautopsy is a little bit more of your everyday neutral palette, but what I love is that Hindash didn't just include pops of color for the entire palette, and he didn't just include boring traditional transition shades. There's a little bit of everything. So if you travel, in fact, I have used this palette to travel with. I think it's just a great one to take with you. And if I didn't mention this, you can also use these pigments for the skin. So you just take a fluffy brush and use it as setting powder. Gosh, what I would give to have Hindash do my makeup one day. Oh my gosh. If you guys don't follow him, I highly recommend checking him out, even if you don't purchase any of his products, because he just seems like such a genuine soul. And if I'm not mistaken, he used to be a painter, which is where a lot of this inspiration came from. And the way he explains and does makeup, it is just so graceful. Oh, what I would give to have his skills. All right, you could honestly just use these two different shades. They're a little bit on the lower lash line, but we're gonna keep going. All right, so this is a little trick for those of you who may have hooded eyes or small eyes. Now, I don't really have either of those, but what I do have is a brow bone that really protrudes, so I like to be able to utilize as much real estate as I can. So if you are wanting to use eyeliner but don't want to have to use up more real estate than you have to, this is a little trick. So take your eyebrow brush or eyeliner brush just like this, dip into the pigment, and then give it a little spritz with your setting spray, and you will find that if you push it right up against the lash line, it gives the appearance of fuller lashes, and you're not using any more space than you have to. So that is what I am going to do next, and I am going to dip into Forever Inked and keep it a little bit closer to the center right and press it right up against the lash line as I mentioned. So I just dipped in, and I'm going to give this a little spritz. Now, you do not have to do this by any means. I personally just like to give it a little spritz if I want to intensify the shade. I feel like this blue, you know, it's not even blue. It's almost like a teal, but I feel like this is going to be so beautiful no matter your eye color. We are dog sitting right now, so if you can hear him snoring, I apologize. You guys, I just set my arm down right in the palette. So of course I got blue pigment all over my white jacket. Now another trick I love to do is to pick up a little bit of shadow and almost do like a mini wing. So it's not going out past where my crease is, but I feel like it just gives a little bit of pop. All right, so do you see what I mean about just having that blue or teal paired up with that brown? And then this is the side I added just kind of like a mini wing to, and I don't have it done on that side, so I don't know, I just love how it looks. All right, now let's do the lower lash line, and then we will do the Boy Tears highlighter on the eyes in just a minute. All right, for the lower lash line, I'm going to dip into Forever Ink just like I did on the upper lashes. Do that for the lower. So I kind of dipped in the middle, and I just want to see what this looks like, if it's going to be too light. Yeah, so I'm going to dip closer to Inked and keep this right at the lash line. Wow, can you see that difference? Just adding a little bit right there. Wow. Don't worry, you guys. We are going to be dipping into the purple in 1 second. All right, so I only take my lower lash line in about 2/3 of the way. I find if I go all the way in with that deeper shade, it really closes off my eyes. And because I have a bulbous nose, meaning it is very skinny right here and comes out, I like to keep this portion of the eyes as open as it can be. All right, it is purple time. So I don't want the purple to overtake the depth of the blue. So I am going to dip closer to the anti side of Antidote and see what that lighter purple shade looks like. So real quick again, if you're going for an everyday look, you could even stop here at this point. And I really feel like having the brown with the blue lower lash line will really make your eyes pop. So I want to add just a hint of purple kind of up above the crease, just to have a little bit of purple peeking through. Ooh, this is pretty. All right, wow, I am really liking how this look is turning out so far. So can you tell the difference with just the brown here and a little bit of the purple on this side? All right, I know I said I didn't want the purple to overtake, but It is, but that's okay. I'm actually still loving how it's looking so far. You guys are gonna have to let me know in the comments what you think. All right, let's mimic the lower lash line and do the same thing and dip into the anti side of Antidote. Rougher number 2. So I'm gonna try to smoke out some of this blue with the purple. You guys, this is definitely more color than I'm used to, and I am here for it. Okay, before we move on to Boy Tears, I am going to go in with an inner corner highlight. Now, of course, this palette is all matte, so I am going to be reaching for another highlighter. So this is from Kaleidos in the shade Gifted. Oh yeah, Gifted is going to pair beautifully with that lilac purple. All right, I brought you guys in even closer because next I want to move on to Boy Tears. Now, I do have to say, as I mentioned, I've been playing with these last couple of days. So I do find this formula, I don't want to say difficult to work with, but it's particular to work with. So first of all, I do recommend shaking it well because it is a little bit of a liquidy formula. Now, when I went to use a brush the other day and use this as kind of like a shimmer topper, I noticed that it just wasn't sticking and spreading with the brush. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit on the back of my hand, dip into it, and then just kind of tap over that section, and then take a brush and just do a tiny bit of blending on the outside. Now, why I am explaining this now is because this formula dries down pretty quickly. So once I start, I'm not going to be able to stop. I'm going to put a little bit on the back of my hand. This does have a very champagne reflective to it. All right, can't talk to you guys, so I gotta do this really quick. I do recommend going in with a lighter layer. I find that if you really try and pack this on, it doesn't look as good as it does with more of a sheer application. Now, I'd imagine the formula was formulated this way on purpose. I'm thinking because it can be used on the face, it's not just your traditional, eye highlighter, which is fine. It's just, you have to learn how to work with these products. All right, one eye is done. Let me get the other eye on, and then I will bring you in up close. Here's another up close look at Boy Tears. So as you can see, it does have a champagne color base to it. It's definitely beautiful. I would just say it's not my favorite formula for the eyes, but we'll get into that in just a minute here. Oh my gosh, you guys, I literally can hear the wind and the snow on my door. Like, it sounds like it's moving my door. Quick story, we actually lost power the other day. It was so scary. We were outside and a transformer completely blew. That was fun, going back to the dark ages. And of course I was in the middle of filming. Yeah, I'd say a tapping motion. I know I'm giving you guys a lot of information. I hope this part isn't boring, but I just wanted to make note of how I find best to apply this formula because I really struggled with it the first time, and I don't want you to have to. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of mascara. Be right back. All right, you guys, so here's what the final eye look is looking like. I went in with one of my new favorite mascaras, the Maybelline Sky High, in the new shade, which is Cosmic Black. All right, now let's move on to the face. So what I'm going to do is mix these two brown shades for the bronzer and contour, and then, believe it or not, we are going to dip into the purple for blush. Yes, I'm a sucker for lilac or purple blush. All right, you guys, this is so easy to use for contour. So I'm going to dip more into this Alter Ego shade, and then to bronze it up, I will dip into Match Made. It's a very natural color. So if you are fair like me, that first shade looks wonderful for contour. And I barely dipped in because I want to keep this a little bit more natural. And then for bronzer, I am dipping more into Match Made, kind of in the center here. And you will see that this works wonderfully for a bronzer, at least on my fair to cool undertone. And keep in mind, I do not have on any setting powder because I wanted you to see how this looks without any setting powder underneath it. They blend very well. They don't really stick to my dry patches or anything like that. Sorry guys, I'm looking at my mirror over here. I'm not going to go too crazy today because I kind of want the eye look to be the center of attention. Now, if you don't know, I have a huge chandelier right above me, and for whatever reason when I film, the way the light bounces off, it always looks like I have this line right here. It does not look like that in real life. I just wanted to mention that, especially if you have not heard me mention that before. So I constantly sit here and really blend this in, but in real life, it doesn't look like that. So would this be my everyday bronzer contour? Probably not, because then you are going to go through some of the shades quicker than you would. However, for travel, I absolutely would be comfortable using this. Now for nose contour, Alter Ego also works wonderfully if you have my skin tone. So I'm just going to take a little bit down my nose. Alright, this purple is just calling my name for blush, and I want to keep the same theme of monochromance. So because I have purple on the eyes, yep, we're doing it. We're doing purple on the cheeks. Morphe M405. Alright, so I just picked up a little bit. We can always add more. This is such a beautiful shade on the cheeks. I wore it the other day, and it just gives this almost fresh spring-like look. Ooh, isn't that pretty? Now I'm mixing a little bit of the purple from Antidote with Heavy Petal, and I always like to take just a tiny bit across the bridge of my nose. Kind of gives like a natural sunburnt look, but I did add a little bit of the pink with this. Alright, I feel like that blended out beautifully. Alright, well, I'm a fan of purple blush. You guys are going to have to let me know if you did pick up this palette, if you tried using that. Alright, lastly, let's use Boy Tears for a highlighter. Now, I find the best way of application is exactly the same as I did before, just by using the fingers. Now, I do find if you have a very fair undertone, you know, this is a little bit too deep for us, okay? But what I did the other day was I went in with this first, and then I added another highlighter that had a white base over it, and oh my gosh, it looked so beautiful. Now keep in mind it does have, you know, a little sparkle to it, which I don't mind because most of my highlighters are that wet sheen look. Now this is how I would describe this highlighter as well. However, it does have, you know, a little bit of sparkle to it. So don't know that I would recommend it if you have a ton of texture, but I certainly have texture, and what do you guys think? So no highlighter on this side, Boy Tears over here. I actually quite like it because it's something different that I don't have in my collection. I would also say that I don't recommend using a brush or a sponge. I actually tried using a dry sponge the other day, and all it did was deposit the glitter, so I do feel like the finger is the best way of application. Alright guys, I just wanted to show you up close what everything is looking like so far. So here's that Boy Tears highlighter. So see how it just catches the light so beautifully? As I mentioned and keep mentioning, it does have a little bit of sparkle and that champagne base, but I think I can get away with it. I love the purple blush especially. What do you guys think? Alright, next let's cut into the topic of the day, and then I will meet you back here at the end of the night for my final thoughts and a wear test. Hi everybody, welcome to the topic of the day. So today's topic of the day is going to be a quick tip regarding saving money with Medicare. Now, if you yourself are not on Medicare, there's a pretty good possibility that you know someone personally, or maybe you have someone in your family who is on Medicare. Now, a lot of times in the States, whenever financial assistance is brought up, typically what is the first option that most folks turn to is Medicaid. So if you do qualify for a Medicaid, that can actually be a great way to cut down on costs with Medicare. But what happens if you don't qualify for Medicaid? Well, there is actually another government assistance program called Extra Help. So whether or not you qualify for Extra Help, That is based on your financial situation. Now, the reason I bring this up is because there are actually quite a few folks who I've met with that did not qualify for straight Medicaid, but they did qualify for extra help. So what exactly is extra help? So extra help can help with costs regarding your Medicare Part B premium, your Part D prescription premium, and copays and deductibles. So I unfortunately can't just throw out a number and let you know whether or not you would be approved for extra help. But if you do know someone who is really having difficulty paying for their Medicare costs, then I would definitely bring up extra help. And extra help is just a name for basically a subsidy to help cut down on those costs. So of course, I can't guarantee that you would qualify for this subsidy, but I did want to bring it up because many people have never heard of this. And the easiest way to apply for extra help to find out if you qualify or not is to go to ssa.gov. Alright, well I do hope the topic of the day was helpful for you all. Next, let's cut into my final thoughts and a wear test. Hi everybody, so let's break down Boy Tears and Monochromance. So as far as Boy Tears goes, as I mentioned earlier, I do feel like the formulation is a little bit finicky, but at the end of the day, once I figured out how to actually use this product with my fingers itself, I do actually quite like this. Now, I do prefer Boy Tears as a highlighter over the eyes because I do find on the eyes, if you go in with even the slightest bit too much, it can get a little bit patchy and pick up on itself. The one thing I really love about Boy Tears is that even though it has a little bit of sparkle, it does have that natural wet sheen look, so I am a fan of this on the face, just not so much on the eyes. Now, I'm sure this is going to come as no surprise to you, but I absolutely love Monochromance. I can't say I'm surprised because Beautopsy is such a staple in my collection, but the one thing I was really concerned about is the formula going to be the same? I would say yes, each of these palettes are identical. They really have that very easy to work with silky texture, and they just make blending a dream. So who would I recommend these palettes for? So first I would say, if you are someone who is completely content with traditional eyeshadow and you already have these color stories in your collection and you are not looking for a palette that has multi-use, then perhaps I wouldn't recommend these for you. On the other hand, if you are someone who is looking to add another fantastic formula to your collection that you not only can use on the eyes but also on the face, then in that situation I would recommend these palettes. Now, I can't say that I recommend one palette over the other. I think that's really going to have to come down to your preference as far as color story goes. Now, myself personally, I love both of these because if I'm going for a more natural look or perhaps I need powder for the face, then I will most likely reach for Beautopsy, and then if I want to add some fun pops of color like we did with the blush today, then I would reach for Monochromance. Now, it has been about 8 hours since I last checked in with you, and I'm not sure if you can see up close. I did have to reapply my lipstick, but I feel like the eyeshadow is still there. The blush is still there. So overall, I just love this formula. So I just want to say congratulations, Hindash. This is your second big release, and I am just a huge fan of the palettes you create. I am so excited to add Monochromance to my collection, and I look forward to creating many more looks in the future. If you guys want to see other looks with Beautopsy or Monochromance, just let me know down in the comments. Alright, well I do hope you guys enjoyed the review of Monochromance and Boy Tears today. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. I just want to thank you guys so much for watching another one of my videos, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye guys!